like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Boruto Chapter 38 reaction. Oh my god. I mean, do I even need to say anything? This chapter, hands down, by far, and I mean by far, the best chapter of Boruto, possibly the best chapter of all time, in my opinion. I mean, it was just that insane. We got to see Jigen face off against Naruto and Sasuke full strength, and Jigen completely mopped the floor with them. Now, you guys might make up a whole bunch of excuses about why they got completely washed. I personally just think that Jigen is that good. Now, in my opinion, if you guys have not read a single chapter of Boruto, or if you guys really rarely read chapters of Boruto, this is going to be a chapter that you guys want to see. I can't necessarily do it justice with these videos. These things rarely come by in terms of an anime. This chapter was just that dope. This chapter was just that hype, and this chapter was just that amazing. Of course, the link to the chapter will be in the description. Also, the link to the chapter will also be pinned in the comment section. And oh my god, I mean, it's just so much things you can say about this chapter, but one thing that I do want to get into, which is by far the most important thing, is the fact that we know a lot about Jigen. Not only that, we know the overall plan and what exactly is going on. Now, Jigen seems to be a vessel, a quote-unquote vessel, the same type of vessel that Orochimaru had back in the day, and also the same type of vessel that he wants to make Kawaki into for right now. So Jigen is not necessarily the bad guy. Jigen is being controlled by an Otsutsuki member, something we have not necessarily been thinking about for a very long time. Now, I do want to make this very clear, not necessarily tooting my own horn, but I do want to make this very clear. But I did make multiple theory videos about this exact same thing. I personally didn't necessarily think that Jigen was going to be a vessel himself, but I thought that Jigen, or now we kind of think that it's going to be Isshiki Otsutsuki, which was dubbed in the chapter, by the way. Isshiki Otsutsuki is going to eventually take over Kawaki's body, and I spoke about how Kawaki is not necessarily going to be Kawaki when he does actually face off against Boruto. We know how much of a love that Kawaki has for Boruto and Naruto, and we said multiple times that it just doesn't make sense for Kawaki to flip-flop like that in the time span for about 3 years, and now we finally get it. Now we finally understand. This right here is most likely 9 times out of 8 is not going to be Kawaki himself. This is going to be Isshiki Otsutsuki taking over Kawaki's body. Now, the other huge thing that we did see in this chapter is the fact that Naruto is actually sealed. Naruto is actually sealed in a different dimension. Now, it seems like it was a cap on the seal. We don't necessarily know everything about it. Of course, this is just my first reaction, so of course I'm going to get a lot more information about this specific dimension in the future, so of course you guys can stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we know that Naruto is presumably sealed into another dimension that Sasuke can't necessarily get to. Now, because of this right here, we can kind of understand that this is where Naruto is. When Kawaki said in the first episode that I'm going to be sending to meet the 7th, he's presumably talking about this same exact dimension that Naruto is trapped in. Again, Naruto is not dead. Naruto most likely won't die. Even if we factor in the lack of nutrition, Naruto is still going to be alive, so we can automatically assume that Naruto is not going to die. This right here seems to be the only imminent threat to Naruto. Now, going past that, Isshiki Otsutsuki is a new character that we finally got to see. Now, of course, I spoke about him earlier in this video. It seems like this right here was the actual Otsutsuki member that Sasuke seen in the other dimension. One thing that I do want to point out is the fact that Sasuke did not want to call Jigen Otsutsuki the Otsutsuki member that he's seen in the other dimension. That right there leads me to believe that this person, Isshiki Otsutsuki, possibly takes over Jigen's body and makes him take form into Isshiki Otsutsuki. Now, I don't really know why Isshiki Otsutsuki needs multiple vessels. This is going to be a topic for another video, but in my personal opinion, I feel like I really don't think it's going to be similar to what Orochimaru deals with, where he constantly needs another body. Isshiki does definitely need a new body, but it's not a situation where like he has his own body. In my opinion, I don't think that Isshiki Otsutsuki has his own body. If you guys recall, every single time when Orochimaru took a different vessel, Orochimaru would automatically take form of his original body. Of course, we've seen multiple times where Orochimaru's face isn't necessarily his actual face, mainly because his actual face is the actual vessel body that he took over. Now, Isshiki Otsutsuki doesn't necessarily deal with that exact same thing. He just automatically takes the form of his new person. And of course, if we can possibly assume that Kawaki is going to be taken over by Isshiki Otsutsuki in the future, we can clearly see that this is going to be Kawaki after the time skip. Now, as I said, I just don't think that Isshiki Otsutsuki has his own body. How is Isshiki Otsutsuki alive? I have no idea. These are pretty much gods at this point. Nothing's going to actually make sense until we see it. So I think it's safe to say that we just have to sit and wait till everything actually comes out. Now, here's something that's going to be extremely important moving forward in the upcoming episodes and possibly even after the time skip of Boruto. I strongly doubt that Isshiki Otsutsuki is going to take form and have the exact same amount of power that he once had in his old full body, which was Jigen. I feel like Isshiki Otsutsuki eventually, when he does take form or when he does take over Kawaki's body, he's going to be that strong. Of course, Kawaki's body is obviously going to get an amount of boost, mainly because Isshiki Otsutsuki is controlling it, but still he won't be as strong as how he was before. For example, in this chapter, he was completely destroying two god level beings, two of the strongest shinobis in the Naruto verse, Naruto and Sasuke, which I made them look like ragdolls. He's not going to be that strong, and I say he's not going to be that strong, man, because he made Kawaki practice and train with the Karma Stone and had Kawaki get used to it. So it's going to be a seamless transition for Isshiki when he does eventually take over Kawaki's body. We've seen these flashbacks in a chapter where Boruto was actually training with Naruto. Kawaki was thinking back to the times where he was actually training with Jigen, and Jigen was kind of putting Kawaki through very harsh training. He was putting him through very rigorous training, mainly because he wanted Kawaki to be in tip-top shape for when he actually does get Kawaki's body. Now, one thing that I do want to make very, very clear, I feel like Kawaki is going to get a sizable boost when Isshiki Otsutsuki does take his body. I spoke about that before, but I also think that Kawaki could possibly absorb the 10 Tails beast. Of course, you guys have been seeing it. Isshiki Otsutsuki been saving that 10 Tails for a reason, and in my opinion, I feel like him basically having Kawaki absorb a lot of that 10 Tails chakra is definitely going to be a very good reason for him actually saving that 10 Tails. Not only because he understands that Kawaki is not going to be as strong as he was before, but also because there's going to possibly be a lot of people looking for Isshiki Otsutsuki. Everybody knows as soon as Isshiki Otsutsuki takes form in a new body, possibly a very younger version of Jigen himself, which is going to be Kawaki, he's going to be at his weakest. This point right here is possibly going to make a lot of the enemies of Isshiki Otsutsuki possibly come after him, including Sasuke. Once Sasuke understands that he took over Kawaki's body, this is possibly going to be the green light. This is probably going to be one of the only chances or the easiest chances to take down Isshiki Otsutsuki. So of course, Isshiki Otsutsuki's main goal at that point is going to be to make Kawaki as strong as possible so he could possibly defend himself against all the foes that are probably looking for him at that point. Now, moving forward in the later chapters of Boruto, one thing that we can automatically assume is that Sasuke is probably going to understand that he has to stop playing around and probably start to train Boruto. Once he figures out that he probably can't necessarily save Naruto, then he's probably going to immediately start to train Boruto, because he's going to understand that he's going to need help. And of course, he's not going to get the requisite help from characters like Kakashi, from characters like Tsunade, from characters like Rock Lee. He's going to actually need help from other extremely strong beings. And of course, Boruto has the potential to be that strong. Boruto has the potential to be god level. And because Sasuke's going to be training Boruto, one thing that we can look forward to is a possible time skip in the next couple of chapters. Now, the possible time skip is probably going to be extremely, and I mean extremely excited for a lot of the fans out there. A lot of people do want to see teenage Boruto. A lot of people want to see teenage Sarada, teenage Mitsuki, and of course the designs overall. But also on top of that, we want to know exactly how is the training going to be stacked up for everybody else. Not only Boruto, but also Sarada. Who is Sarada going to be training with? Who is Mitsuki going to be training with? Who are these other characters going to be training with? And also, are they going to get the requisite training for them to possibly be even a smidgen of a help to Boruto and Sasuke when they do eventually fight a character like Kawaki and possibly whoever Kawaki is with? Man, because one of the biggest criticisms and concerns about how Naruto and Naruto Shippuden was is the fact that at the end of Naruto Shippuden, it was just Naruto and also Sasuke fighting the big bad people. And of course, we understand that other people had tiny influences and people kind of helped a tiny bit, but still, the huge contributors in terms of the newer generation was only a handful of people. And of course, they can possibly improve upon that over this time skip. Now, again, this chapter was absolutely amazing. I do want to make a whole separate video breaking down exactly what happened in this chapter in terms of the actual fighting scenes, man, because it was absolutely insane. We got to see multiple things. We got to see the Susanoo. We got to see Naruto using not only his shadow clones, but also the Nine Tails Karma completely popping out. And also, I love the addition of the Nine Tails Karma basically telling Naruto like, hey, shut up and don't make Jigen actually kill you, man, because he has no business with you. We don't necessarily know Isshiki Otsutsuki's overall plan as of right now. We heard Naruto and Sasuke kind of make up some sort of plan in their head, basically saying that Isshiki Otsutsuki wants to siphon all of the chakra on planet Earth. I strongly doubt that's going to be the actual situation, man, because that really doesn't make any sense to me. That could possibly be because I didn't necessarily think about it critically yet. As I said, this right here is just a first reaction. But one thing that I am definitely looking forward to is actually seeing Naruto and Sasuke elaborate about what they think the overall plan for Isshiki Otsutsuki is, because as of right now, as I said, that plan right there just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if I were to give my opinion, I feel like chapter 40 would possibly be a very good time to basically introduce the time skip. But of course, one thing I do want to say is that there's a lot of information that has to be disseminated before the time skip. A whole bunch of questions has to be answered, and of course, I don't necessarily think they could possibly do that in just 1 or 2 chapters. So I look forward to them possibly using more time in terms of chapters before they actually do the time skip. So the time skip might actually happen chapter 40, chapter 45, or even chapter 50 possibly. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comment section below. As I said, one of the best chapters of Boruto of all time, one of the best chapters in the Naruto series of of all time. It was definitely a very, very good read. I highly recommend you guys read it. But it's been your boy Barbie, and we out.
Check my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm metrosexual, no high cholesterol. Where's Jenny Craig? Bitch, just get sexual.